Lee Jung-suk plays Ah Yo-hyung, who has been an assistant lawyer in the legal field for 9 years. His friends have already soared in their careers and have bright futures, yet he remains in the same place. Whenever someone asks him why he does not start his own law firm, he always laughs and says the risks are too great. It is easy to go bankrupt. An assistant lawyer is different from a paralegal. The former is a certified professional. They can independently handle legal matters. They just have to follow the instructions of the barrister. The latter is merely an assisting role. They cannot handle cases independently. This capable yet restricted state is a true reflection of Zhao Heng. Aside from work, Zhao Heng only dines with 4 friends who are also lawyers. Occasionally, he takes time to interview potential dates, but each time, he tells them openly that he will contact them. In reality, he secretly deletes their contact information. Zhao Heng's 4 friends are He Sheng, Ji Wen, Ting Dongshu, and Chang Yuan. They are known as Wu Xiaoqiang at the law firm. Dongshu is about to resign. A new member will take his place. At this moment, this new member, Ji Jihe, is soaking in the bathhouse. After the bath, he is dressed in professional attire and walks into the law firm. The last page of the handover document, left by Dongshu, specifically marked with He Shengji, Wen Ting, Chang Yuan, and 4 names. Zhu Heng. The senior lawyer told Shizhe to introduce him to the colleagues. He deliberately memorized these names. However, when he greeted his colleagues one by one in the firm, he found that not a single name matched. At that moment, a male lawyer greeted a senior lawyer. The senior lawyer introduced him. That person is a partner, usually operates separately from their team, only occasionally says hello. A hint of doubt arises in their mind. They ask for the names of those 4 people. The barrister looked completely baffled and answered that he had never heard of it. This answer made him even more confused, because on the last page of the handover document, there was a clear special reminder. Below it were the names and contact details of those 4 people. He randomly opened a folder on the computer desktop, which not only contained the contact information of the 4 people. For tips on eating, drinking, and having fun, consult Wenting. For financial and tax issues, ask He Shengji. For difficult cases, seek An Zhu Heng. He opened the social media platform again. He checked the updates and profile pictures of the 4 one by one. When he saw the photo of Zhu Heng's back on the social media account, a meaningful smile unexpectedly appeared at the corners of his mouth. Although Zhao Heng has been working as an assistant lawyer for 9 years, whenever faced with complex and tricky cases, he always manages to rely on his keen observation skills to spot the key details. For example, there was a case where a blind defendant insisted he was innocent, and Zhao Heng, just by observing his facial expressions and tone of voice during the testimony, was able to detect inconsistencies in his statements. Combined with the results of the on-site investigation, he identified flaws by cross-checking the evidence in one go, making the case quickly come to light. Zhao Heng is ruthless and speaks little when handling cases, but those who know him well understand that he is actually a gentle person with great empathy. One time, he accidentally discovered that a defendant's litigation agent was watching an instructional video, repeatedly practicing how to handle court hearings. Due to professional sensitivity, he followed the other party into the courtroom, only to find that this person was merely copying the script from the video, completely unaware of the specific details of the case he was representing, uncertain whether there were any witnesses, even uncertain whether the case has a direct connection to the defendant. It ended up being a joke. Afterwards, Zhao Heng reminded him not to learn defense from watching TV. That night, the 4 gathered for dinner at the restaurant. The atmosphere was as relaxed and lively as ever. Soon, Shiji's figure appeared at the door. He slowly walked in and glanced at Zhao Heng. His expression changed in an instant. It was as if he had seen someone who should not be there. Yet his first reaction was to pretend not to recognize me. Even when I casually mentioned the place where we first met, he still looked completely indifferent. If it were not for the intimate kiss we once shared, I would have almost thought I had mistaken him for someone else. He pulled up old selfies from our social media. Staring at the photo, blurted out a sentence. How could he forget someone so adorable? Although Zhao Heng deliberately avoids acknowledging it, he can't help but secretly look at him, and often argues back and forth. Whenever Zhiji talks about legal topics in public, Zhao Heng always immediately objects. Although the 2 work in the same office building, they belong to different law firms. One day, a stranger suddenly showed up at their door. After a brief conversation, they learned that he was the defendant in Zhao Heng's case. Because he could not find Zhao Heng downstairs, he decided to go upstairs and try his luck. The man had previously taken out a loan from the bank, now unable to repay. Even after selling all valuable possessions, there is still some debt remaining. Now the bank is trying to evict him from the rental property to recover the security deposit. Zhao Heng, acting as the bank's legal representative, is here to help achieve this goal, and the man has come to confront him. I just hope Zhao Heng will show mercy and be lenient. We can't find Zhao Heng, can only ask Ji Zihe for help, but Shi Zihe honestly admits he has no authority to intervene. There is nothing he can do. Even if he wants to help, the law can't stop the bank from filing a lawsuit. That night, Shi Jihe's phone suddenly received an email. It is the Supreme People's Court that has just released a new ruling. The content is almost identical to the case that Zhao Heng is representing. With this ruling, the bank will find it difficult to forcibly evict tenants for the original reasons. However, this information has just been released. Zhao Heng believes there is still room for maneuver. Perhaps the judge has not yet grasped this information. However, what he does not know is that Shi Jihe immediately forwarded this case to that man. It was Shi Jihe's intervention that prevented Zhao Heng from achieving the client's goals. Seeing Xi again, Zhao Heng bluntly questions him. Are you naturally nosy? Shi Jihe responds that he only provided truthful information. He did not spread rumors. Zhao Heng then asks him, do you agree with the verdict in this case? The system considers this a public interest act. There is no reason to be so harsh. Zhao Heng, however, believes that if this behavior goes unpunished, banks will no longer lend to vulnerable groups. The emergence of a new precedent not only changes the course of a case, but will inevitably trigger more chain reactions. For example, those who originally lived in public housing apply for a public housing deposit loan from the bank. Now, that is also hindered by new legal precedents. Banks' avenues to recover debts have been completely blocked. The two have difficulty reaching a consensus. But when they are alone, they can't help but think about what the other said. Meanwhile, the landlord of the office building, Kim Hong-min, he convened a meeting with the legal representatives of the 4 major law firms. He proposed merging the 4 firms into one super law firm named Hongmi Law Firm. He promised that once merged, he would provide an additional 4 floors of office space, allowing Hongmi Law Firm to exclusively occupy half of the entire building. More importantly, the building itself would also be called Hongmi Tower. The company name matches the building name. This appears more authoritative and influential to the outside world. He also promised that each law firm would still be able to operate independently after the merger. Each will manage its own revenue. At the same time, he will refer a large number of clients to the new firm. He gave the 4 leaders one night to decide. A response must be provided by 9 a.m. the next day. On the surface, Jin Hongmin's goal is to integrate resources to expand the territory, but secretly, his true motives may be hidden. Since his entry into the company, Hong Ling has been quietly watching him. Every time they look at him, their gaze is meaningful. The next day, Wen Ting saw an internal notice about the law firm's upcoming merger. She wanted to tell Zhao Heng immediately, but found he was not in the office. Zhao Heng was running on the playground. During a short break, he looked up and saw Shi Jihe sitting on a bench. Just then, Zhao Heng received a message from Shi Jihe. I clearly remember that we knew each other and even shared a kiss, but your current attitude really confuses me. One wants to acknowledge, the other does not. So what exactly happened between them? So it turns out that before Zhao Heng and Shi Jihe knew each other, they were on the same flight to Hong Kong. When picking up their luggage, they saw each other for the first time. They then got on the same sightseeing bus, one after the other, even sitting in the same row, enjoying the sights of Hong Kong together. After getting off the bus, they coincidentally walked towards the same street. Even the dormitories they stayed in were in the same building. From that moment on, the red thread of fate quietly connected them. In the little moments they shared in Hong Kong, the two slowly developed feelings for each other. On the eve of departure, questioning if Zhao Heng will return to Seoul, will we still be together? Zhao Heng misunderstood his meaning. He thought he was just asking to meet, so he did not respond directly. After returning to Seoul, Zhao Heng waited a long time but could not reach Shi Jihe. He thought he had changed his mind, pretending not to recognize him when they reunite. Upon hearing this, Yoshi angrily calls him a big fool. The reason he did not contact him earlier was because he lost his phone at the time. The phone contained his only contact information. He even specifically emailed Hong Kong to try to find his phone, hoping to recover the phone. But I never found it. After hearing Shi Jihe's explanation, Zhao Heng did not believe it at all, because he thought Shi Jihe was good at lying. At the same time, Zhao Heng expressed that he liked her back then, but not anymore. But you are still very beautiful now. A few words made Shi Jihe blush. He also apologized for interfering in the Shi Jihe case back then. He expressed his regret. The misunderstanding between them was finally resolved. The next day, Hong Ling Law Firm officially merged. A company with 5 members was established, and indeed, the merger took place. To facilitate this merger, the landlord, Hong Ling, took the initiative to propose it. They will designate the entire 4th floor as a rest area, in exchange for the title of legal advisor at Hongling Building. At first, everyone thought he had ulterior motives. Now they realize he once dreamed of becoming a lawyer. This made him can't help but dance gracefully in the office, celebrating the realization of his dream in a different way. Now the company has a fresh start. Each of the 5 people has also welcomed new cases. Wenting's case won, but the client is still furious. because 50 million won is missing from the 700 million won he claimed. Despite Wenting's repeated explanations that 50 million has already been confirmed as paid, the other party insists they have not received it. He wants to call someone to vent, but none of his friends are picking up. Wenting looked at the message on her phone. Good friends do not have to be glued together all the time, but they offer precise comfort when you are vulnerable. Meanwhile, Shizhi received a medical malpractice case. A little boy suddenly stopped his heartbeat the night after surgery. The family angrily sued the lead surgeon. The doctor wants to apologize to the family and offer compensation, but the hospital's senior management strongly oppose it, worried it might affect the hospital's reputation. In response, the hospital submitted the diagnostic and surgical videos, trying to prove there was no medical negligence. During communication with Shizhi, the lead surgeon stated that he performed a colon surgery and the procedure was without issues. He has been practicing medicine for 20 years. There have indeed been cases of post-surgical death, but he has never apologized to the families because of it. And the reason he can't let it go this time is because the patient was a young child. During the trial, the plaintiff suddenly showed several photos indicating that the lead surgeon is left-handed, but in the video, the lead surgeon is clearly right-handed. Questioning the true mastermind behind it all, she was caught off guard by the evidence provided by the plaintiff. Before he could react, several police officers entered the courtroom and took the plaintiff back to the police station. It turns out that after he learned of this evidence, he ambushed the lead surgeon from behind. Fortunately, the surgeon was not seriously injured, just a mild concussion. She kept reviewing the evidence, reflecting on what the lead surgeon had said, but he still could not find a breakthrough. Just as he was about to seek help from Zhao Heng, he happened to run into him in the elevator. After hearing the case details, Zhao Heng pointed out the key issue directly. The logical evidence provided by the plaintiff is actually just common sense. From an outsider's perspective, Zhao Heng then called in Wenting's husband. He works as an operating room nurse at the university hospital. After watching the video, he explained that even left-handed surgeons usually use their right hand during surgery. Every surgeon starts out as an apprentice. Students work face-to-face with their teachers. If one of them is left-handed, their hands often bump into each other, which affects the operation. Therefore, most surgeons use their right hand to operate, either use both hands. In conclusion, the plaintiff's evidence is not supported by medical expertise, cannot prove that the lead surgeon hired a stand-in. The lead surgeon learned the truth after waking up. His quick-wittedness towards Kiyoshi is commendable. In fact, he has never let others take the lead. It was purely out of guilt that he wanted to express his apology. He also chose to forgive the plaintiff who attacked him. After understanding the truth, the plaintiff withdrew the lawsuit. Shizhi's case was satisfactorily resolved, but on Zhao Heng's side, a new problem arose. He received a divorce case. The person who asked him is the defendant. When he saw the plaintiff's name, he immediately went to find his supervisor. He expressed his unwillingness to take on the case. Unfortunately, his request was denied. Zhao Heng had no choice but to brace himself and step into the courtroom. In court, the defendant introduced himself. Her name is Park Soo-jin. She is Zhu Heng's ex-girlfriend. Once, he and Park Soo-jin were inseparable day and night. They loved each other deeply, and now they stand on opposite sides. Zhao Heng feels a complex mix of emotions. Memories flood like a tide, but he knows, out of respect for his profession, he could only grit his teeth and attend the court. When he learned that Crystal, in the lawsuit, accused him of abusing her and speaking harshly during their marriage, Crystal's husband, Che Zhenghao, showed a hint of panic. But when he found out the other party did not submit any evidence, the tense atmosphere instantly disappeared. Zhao Heng took in his reaction at a glance. He asked Zhenghao Che whether, as stated in the complaint, he had engaged in violence or verbal abuse. Zhenghao Che unhesitatingly denied it, claiming he had never committed domestic violence, let alone insults. In court, the judge asked Crystal to provide evidence, such as photos or videos of the injuries. Crystal glanced at the curse mark beside him. He told the judge that there was no evidence to submit. In fact, Crystal did have evidence, he just did not want the curse mark to see his wounds. Seeing that Crystal could not provide more evidence, Zhao Heng requested the judge to conclude the debate and pass judgment. But the judge stated that it cannot be concluded yet. Mediation procedures need to be conducted. If mediation fails, only then can a final judgment be made. Because Shi Zhihe saw Zhao Heng in court and noticed his hesitation, Shi Zhihe secretly checked his case. That indescribable sense of alienation made him very uncomfortable. Meanwhile, Wen Ting went to the hospital to get medicine for her allergic rhinitis. The doctor asked if she was pregnant. She denied it firmly. But when she saw the pregnancy test kit, she inexplicably bought one. By the time I realized it myself, I had already taken the reagent back to the office. On the other side, the case at the Saints is a bit complicated. The client brought his wife's death certificate and proof of marriage. His tone carried a kind of absurd bitterness His wife and her lover were heavily intoxicated. There was a car accident on the way to the hotel. They died one after another. He is smiling, but his laughter is wrapped in iced tea. But the lover also died. Compensation can only be claimed from his estate's heirs. St. Jean is flipping through the files. He suggests involving the lover's wife, and both children under the age of 10 are listed as defendants. Client furrows his brow and hesitates. If he only seeks compensation from his wife, the amount received would be minimal. The client falls silent for a moment and nods, and Chang Yuan's case is filled with frustration from start to finish. The boss handed him the case of the chairman's son, but said there was no need for a defense. Just spend an hour or two each day meeting with him. The boss casually explained that the chairman's son was only burdened with some stigma. That is why he was detained, afraid he would have a hard time inside. So they had Chang Yuan keep him company and chat to ease the boredom. Proper defense was handed over to another law firm. It seemed like a simple task, but when it fell to Chang Yuan, it concealed a blatant insult. Yet this humiliation, he simply had no room to refuse. When he arrived at the detention center, he was completely looked down on by the chairman's son. Harsh words were thrown at him. Chang Yuan could only suppress the bitterness in his heart and force a stiff smile. At the mediation meeting, Shui Jing asked how Zhao Heng had been recently, but Zhao Heng said they were only discussing the divorce case now. I am not Anju Heng, but the plaintiff's representative, with tears in her crystal eyes. She questions him about why he took this case. He does not want the person he once loved to see his miserable marriage. As they leave the courtroom, their gazes cross. He did not say a word. At the trial of St. Ji, the atmosphere was heavy, like a damp cloth. Just as the judge finished speaking, the plaintiff's wife suddenly looked up, her voice trembling. He took a deep breath, his words choked with emotion. My husband and his mistress died. As the legal wife, I end up having to pay compensation to the mistress's family. Otherwise, I can't even inherit my husband's estate. I still have 2 children to raise, he said bitterly. It is so pathetic that I do not even have the right to give up the inheritance. This mess clearly was not caused by me. Why should I have to endure this? Everyone present understood his pain, but could only watch helplessly as reality cornered him. Besides compensation, he had no other choice. As he was leaving, Shang Ji wanted to offer some comfort, but was abruptly cut off by him. His words were like thorns. Even though the woman had already left, Shang Ji was still momentarily stunned. On the other side, the curse case was a complete victory. Che Zhenghao sent over some gift vouchers, saying it was a thank you, but his eyes were full of condescension. At that moment, Che Zhenghao explained that he was specifically assigned to handle the lawsuit back then, because he had learned earlier that Zhu Heng was his wife's ex-boyfriend. He knew that Crystal would feel uncomfortable and choose to give up submitting the design. Zhao Heng listened expressionlessly. When he took the product, he suddenly tore it to pieces, as if tearing apart the client's arrogance along with it. The client was furious and humiliated. He actually tried to assault Zhao Heng. Zhao Heng warned him that this time, he would leave evidence. The client could only slink away in defeat. This was just witnessed by Shizhi. Shizhi looked somewhat uneasy. He apologized softly and hurriedly left, but when he reached downstairs, he ran into Shui Jing. Shizhi told Crystal Zhao Heng had already left work. On his way home, Zhao Heng received 2 text messages. One was from Shizhi, asking if he was okay. The other was from Crystal, saying that you are no longer Cha Zhenghao's agent. It was An Zhuheng, was not it? Zhu Heng eventually accepted his ex-girlfriend's invitation. They met again. He honestly told Crystal, live your life well from now on. I have let go of everything from the past. From now on, it is best we never meet again. If something good happens in your life, just send me a message. This is probably the most comfortable way to move on after a breakup. Here at Shi Jihi's place, she took the initiative to tell Shui Heng that Zhao Heng had finished work. She has been feeling anxious and uneasy. She wanted to go to Zhao Heng's building to explain herself, but did not know where to start. Fortunately, at this moment, a message from Zhao Heng came, asking to meet. Shi Jihi quickly spoke up to apologize to Shui Jing for what he said on his behalf. He admitted he had overstepped. He did not want Zhao Heng to get hurt. Zhao Heng said that was already in the past. He just felt taking on this case was too foolish, so he felt uncomfortable about it. He told Shi Jihi not to take it to heart. He took out the snacks he bought for Shizhi because he still remembered that Shizhi did not have any emergency snacks, so he bought a bunch and packed them full. Cheng Yuan passed by the bank and saw Shengji secretly transferring money. He wanted to quietly tease him, but then he saw the account balance and was shocked. During the meal, he immediately spilled the beans. Shengji's account has a lot of money. Shengji hurriedly waved his hand to deny. Shi Jihi was just reaching out to grab something a bit farther away. Xin Su frowned silently. Naturally, she brought it over in front of Shiji. Wen Ting also sighed. The old grandpa had secretly saved so much money from them. Shengji denied it again, but Shiji hesitated at the way he called the old grandpa. Wen Ting happily responds that his every move is just like grandpa's. Shiji, curious, asks about Shengji's childhood nickname. Shengji earnestly answers, Spring Spirit, a nickname that completely does not match his image. This surprises everyone. Tang Yuan is once again chatting with the president's son. This time, he subtly asks, how does the young master manipulate the stock market? The young master excitedly talks about the process of manipulating stock prices. Tang Yuan shows great enthusiasm and support. The young master is getting into the mood. He wants to bring Chang Yuan along and claims he will help him make a fortune. Chang Yuan quickly declines the offer. He bluntly states that this would cost him his lawyer's license. A polite refusal. The young master is angry now. Chang Yuan can only force a smile. The atmosphere looks lively, but Chang Yuan's mind is as clear as a mirror. This is not what he wants. He can't help but ask the boss, how long do I have to keep doing this? The boss is completely indifferent. You just need to go over there and have fun. If it were me, I would only feel lucky. But the frustration in Chang Yuan's heart is not something the word lucky can cover. That night, a young man failed to get a job and drank with friends to relieve stress. After drinking too much, he vaguely went to a convenience store to buy a can of beer, sitting at the doorway, next to a forgotten watch. The next day he sought help from Shizhi, saying he blacked out after drinking. He did not find anyone else's things at home, but the police said the surveillance caught him taking the watch. This broke him down completely. Shizhi comforted him, telling him not to admit to being a suspect yet. I will accompany him to the police station to check the surveillance footage. If it is really proven that the man took the watch, it won't be too late to admit it then. But the police station's surveillance showed after the owner left, only he appeared there, and then the watch disappeared. Like he put it in his bag. His obsession was unshakable. The two of them went to the convenience store to look for clues. Coincidentally, the surveillance camera at the restaurant across the street seemed to be pointing right at this spot, but the owner coldly refused. They had to think of another way. The client on Zhao Heng's side is a burly man. He is just acting as a teacher. He verbally warned the children who stayed after school at the school gym, but then received a police notice saying he was accused of child abuse. Zhao Heng looked at the other person's sturdy build, but was not sure. He decided to seek help from Wen Ting and search for clues online. With the help of the internet-savvy Wen Ting, they quickly found the children's ID, who accused the teacher. It is clear that the child is lying. The parents are making false accusations. Zhao Heng immediately arranged to meet with several parents of the children. He explained the specific situation. Across from him were a bunch of parents who clearly did not understand the law. Wenting could not help but speak up. It indicates that the law is the minimum standard of morality. Parents of minor children, as guardians, have a duty to fulfill. People often only show panic when their self-interest is threatened. These parents quickly ask, how can this issue be resolved? When perspectives are reversed, the case was finally perfectly resolved. To show his gratitude, Zhao Heng invited Wen Ting and her husband out to dinner and asked Wen Ting to bring Xi along. He carefully set the tableware, but when he asked the waiter to add a cup to the table, he was told that Xi was busy with work and had not come. He silently cleared the tableware away again. During the meal, he suddenly sighed. Luckily, my client is not a bad person. As soon as he said it, he paused slightly. This was clearly something Kazashi had said before. Once you have someone you care about, unconsciously, even your words carry their shadow. Chang Yuan came to the detention center again. The young master said he would be out soon. Facing Chang Yuan's disbelief, he directly mentioned the case about manipulating stock prices. In the end, it depends on who gained the illicit profits. Halfway through his sentence, he again suggested that Chang Yuan work under him. After all, you are making money by keeping me company anyway. Stop pretending to be a lawyer. Chang Yuan's suppressed anger finally erupts. After venting, he stands up angrily, ready to leave. The other person sneers. If you think I am a thug, then what does it matter who comes here to hang out with thugs? Anyway, in a few days, he will be back again. Don't be so proud. The only one who feels bad is yourself. It is mealtime again. Chang Yuan is eating. He receives a call from the restaurant owner monitoring the cameras. It turns out Shizhi went to that restaurant again. The owner still refused his request to check the surveillance footage, but when he found out they are colleagues, called Chang Yuan, hearing the name Shizhi, Zhu Yu immediately stopped eating and listened carefully. At night, Chang Yuan accompanied the persistent Shizhi back to the restaurant, still met with rejection. The next day, the two came again. The restaurant owner was also impressed by them. He agreed to check the surveillance footage. In the clear surveillance footage, the boy indeed took off his watch while drunk. He groggily put the watch into his backpack. Shop owner, Hey Chang Yuan, left in disappointment. This outcome also left the boy very confused. He could not find a job for himself, still drunk and stealing from others. I am really trash. He asked Ji Shi, what should he do now? Ji Shi sincerely replied, from a lawyer's perspective, I would advise you to pretend you do not know, but if I were your sister, I would tell you, you have to take that video to the police station and turn yourself in. Don't hide the truth. Don't become a real piece of trash. The boy finally went to the police station to turn himself in, accompanied by someone. Admitting I messed up takes courage, and using that courage to make things right is the way to truly give meaning to the mistake. Chang Yuan bought kimbap, one for himself, one for Shizhi. Zhao Heng did not show any reaction at the time, but he took Shizhi's kimbap as he left. That night, Shizhi invited Cheng Yuan to thank him with a barbecue. After several rounds of drinks, Cheng Yuan finally expressed his thoughts. He will be the reception lawyer. The frustration of being forced to chat was laid bare. The hardest part is not knowing how long it will last. Shizhi silently accompanied him for a drink. It felt like swallowing all the worries down. At the end of the workday, Zhu Heng saw Shizhi. He quickly caught up to him. Recently, Kishi has been getting close to Cheng Yuan. He noticed it. Feeling a bit jealous, he said, "Why do not you have dinner with me too? Didn't you promise to invite me to dinner?" But Kishi thought it was because of the previous case. Zhao awkwardly went along with it, saying, "A promise is a promise." Only he himself knew the real reason behind it. Meanwhile, Sunki's phone, which was focused on work, suddenly received a flood of spam messages bombarding him. His identity as the eldest son of the Korean group chairman was exposed. Watching row after row of malicious messages and relentless harassing calls, he suddenly felt dazed again. It is like being stripped bare, thrown into the gaze of the crowd. The malice and prying in that information are going to swallow him alive. On the other side, the heads of two law firms arranged for Shizhi and Zhao Heng to take on a DJ dismissal case. The client is a DJ who was setting up equipment at a bar. Unexpectedly saw the boss beating the waiter. He hurriedly took out his phone to call the police. To his surprise, a colleague publicly changed their testimony. The next day, the boss fired him without hesitation. Not even a proper reason for the dismissal. The two discussed it at length and decided to first confirm the client's labor status. Work often fluctuates unpredictably. Monthly salaries naturally vary. Kiyoshi suggests meeting the colleague who was beaten earlier. They agree to meet outside the bar. Zhu Chen, in a crisp suit, with furrowed brows, standing out sharply from the surrounding hazy atmosphere. Kiyoshi asks him to take off his tie. Zhuo Chen feels it is unnecessary. Kiyoshi steps forward and removes his tie clip. He followed obediently like a well-behaved student. Just stepping into the deafening bar, the psychedelic lights swallowed them whole. Zhao Heng, coming to the bar for the first time, tried to imitate those around him. He forced himself to sway his body, awkward like a child lost on the dance floor. Shizhi reminded him that he was here to work, but he himself was surrounded by those around him, unable to break free. The curse marks tightly held his hand in the darkness, cutting through the crowd to break out. The two questioned people and found the beaten colleague. They intended to explain the situation and have him testify, but he still flatly denied it. Shizhi silently handed over his business card. His words shone like a beam of light into the other person's gloomy days. Although he did not say much, he left only after receiving the business card. Unexpectedly, the bar owner had already noticed them. He approached to question their identities. Zhao Heng stepped aside, blocking Shizhi behind him. In a moment of crisis, he lied about coming for an interview and managed to get by. During dinner, they teased each other about their lies. In the moment when Ji poured the water, Wrinkles saw that familiar pattern, like a rope, stringing together time, as if the night view of Hong Kong from 10 years ago unfolded before him. Sitting on the bus, Shi Jihe looked at his profile when suddenly a dusty memory jumped out, carrying a warm sweetness. The next day, Zhao Heng walked out of the subway, fumbling for his wallet, when suddenly he realized to ask the client for the attendance record. Shizhi originally wanted to claim for lost wages, but the client did not want that. He just wanted to prove he had not done anything wrong. As long as he could go back to work confidently, that is enough. Coming from the countryside, he finally got into a big nightclub. There is no reason not to keep going to work. He has not done anything wrong. It is the bottom line he holds in his palm. In court, the two presented the subway station, where the client commutes daily. They recorded the fixed times for going to and coming from work, and the chat records of the boss's work instructions. These are enough to prove his identity as a worker. The trial has concluded. The other party still threatened to fire him. The client calmly laid out his trump card. That colleague, the sergeant, testified. The paper listed all the abuses he suffered. Seeing this, the opponent could only leave in frustration. Zhao Heng had just stepped out the door when he saw the explosive news about the tycoon's son in St. Ji. He felt a sudden jolt in his heart. Sheng Ji pushed the door open and walked in. Immediately, countless gazes pinned him in place. A buzzing whisper filled the air. It swirled around like mosquitoes. Representatives arrived just in time. A cold glare finally silenced the discussions. Chang Yuan stared at the report on the screen. His eyes were filled with mixed emotions. Shock mixed with anger at being played. It turns out that the person I work with every day has such a huge background. Tonight's gathering of 5 people had an atmosphere that was suffocating. St. G's phone was vibrating like crazy. He acted as if he did not hear it. Just lowered my head and shoveled the food into my mouth bite by bite. It felt like food was the only wall blocking out the world. Back at my desk, a call came in from someone claiming to be a senior. He enthusiastically invited me to join a startup as a director, just hoping to use me to connect with a Korean group. Sung-ki showed no expression. Hang up immediately. It means to get straight to the point and ask if the report is true. Saint-Ji said it is false. It means to respond with a simple okay, showing trust. Sometimes just 1 or 2 words are enough. Saint-Ji worked overtime until late at night. He ran into Chang Yuan, who had not left either. Chang Yuan always felt they were closer than ordinary colleagues. It is the kind of person who can let down their guard and openly share the wrinkles in their heart because it is him. Chang Yuan is completely unreserved. He pours out all the trivialities and unspeakable worries from home. He thought this honesty was mutual. Only now does he realize the livelihood they depend on at home has always relied on the protection of the other family's support. This makes him feel betrayed. Shang-Ji only glances at him deeply, without saying a word. The next morning, they meet again in the elevator. This time, it is a former company representative. Saint silently pressed the floor button for him, as a sign of sarcastic mockery. When you switched jobs upstairs for the salary, I actually admired you. At least you were honest. But now it seems, that was all a lie. If you are unhappy with our company, just say so. He tried to explain to the representative, but was completely ignored, and left after work at night. The elevator was crowded with Wenting and Chang Yuan. Wenting tried to ease the tension, but no one responded. Just as they stepped out the main door, Shang-Ji was immediately surrounded by lurking reporters. The questions came crashing down like stones. He stood there, frozen. Wenting instinctively rushed over to block them, but she was pushed aside. In the end, it was lawyer Zhao who saved him. Finally, back in that small rental room, he sat on the floor leaning against the wall. He opened the comments section of his food blog. All the warmth from before has been drowned in malice. He took a deep breath, then opened the editing page. He typed the title, "The reason I am nicknamed the Spring Spirit is because I work and earn money in the fall. I can only go to school in spring. It took me 8 years to graduate because of that. Because I know that only by going to school can there be a way out. Recently I was mistaken for the son of a wealthy family due to a similar name. I believe this was an accident, but I hope that no one else will have to reveal their scars to prove their poverty." After posting the article, he went to the small restaurant where his mom works. Mom asked him why he came so late. He opened his mouth, but ultimately he could not bring himself to say those words that would worry Mom. On that day, Wenting received a case. The client's daughter had been studying in the U.S. since childhood. In college, she accidentally got involved with drugs. Her parents were deeply concerned about their daughter, yet they reported it to the police on the day their daughter returned home. They hope their daughter can turn over a new leaf soon. Seeing the client's red-rimmed eyes, Wenting suddenly thought of her own child. She took out the ultrasound report from the drawer. She noticed that on the edge, Masa was still hesitating. During the dinner, Zhao Heng noticed the atmosphere was tense, so he spoke up first, talking about how I once acted as the agent for my ex-girlfriend's ex-husband and the court battles with my ex-girlfriend. Cheng Yuan followed up with a comment, saying he has been working as a meeting lawyer lately. At this moment, Wenting finally softly says, "I am pregnant." One piece of news after another hits them. Everyone is stunned, exchanging glances. Shang-Ji thought they did not know about the post they made. He wanted to explain himself, but realized everyone had already seen through his thoughts. They just had not pointed it out. Looking at the 4 people around the table, he suddenly understood. This was probably what friendship meant. After the meal, Chang Yuan also took the initiative to apologize to Shang-Ji. Chang Yuan did not expect to see the chairman's son at the law firm. The other party was acquitted. He arrogantly shoved his business card into Chang Yuan's hand. Upon hearing this, she decided to hold a pregnancy party. She invited everyone to dinner. Staring at the ultrasound, she hesitated for a long time before calling her husband. Only a cold came through the receiver. Her heart instantly sank into an ice cellar. She felt wronged and wanted to cry. When Wenting went downstairs feeling down, she saw her husband's car speeding towards her. She explained that she answered that way because she was surprised, and also because her phone suddenly died and shut off. So she hurried back. After saying that, he held Wenting tightly. The small car was filled with visible happiness. Chang Yuan and Shang-Ji just got downstairs when they received a text canceling the gathering. He took Chang Yuan to the small restaurant where his mother works. Jizhe and Zhao Heng arrived at the restaurant early. The team get-together turned into a private moment for two. They joked that this was their first time partnering up. The piano music in the celebration banquet restaurant became background noise. He took only 1 second. I recognized it from 10 years ago. The piano piece flowing from Kishi's fingertips. It turns out that 10 years ago, just after they left the tea restaurant, Kishi was rushing to cover a shift for a friend and accidentally twisted his ankle. The heart-wrenching vines had not withered. I saw it clearly. Without a word, I crouched down to carry him. In a hurry, he accepted this sudden kindness and finally arrived on time. He endured the pain and persisted. The image of filling in for someone left ripples in his heart. He stayed behind. His gaze unconsciously followed Shin Jianqian's focused figure. At that moment, his heart raced like the tide. The sound drifted over the embankment. When the work was done, Zhao Heng hurriedly helped him sit down. Like a magic trick, He pulled out medicine from his bag. He crouched down. He let him step on his shoes. His fingertips gently brushed over the swollen ankle. When he looked up, he unexpectedly met his gaze. The air froze for a moment. The sound of the heartbeat is especially clear in the silence. She hurriedly looked away. Her cheeks burned with a heat like fire. It was also here he mustered up the courage to ask, hoping to share such moments again in the future. Downstairs at the guest house, the wind of the farewell night wrapped around the reluctance. 1,000 words are brewing in silence. Joy is reluctant to say goodbye just yet. He steps forward, seeking a new direction. Watching him draw closer inch by inch in the night, his furrowed heart completely loses rhythm. An impulse drives him forward. Chizhi does not shy away, only with equally surging affection. Goodbye with an uncertain return. Let this moment be cherished even more dearly 10 years from now. Right here, Zhao Heng recognizes their melody. Long-buried memories suddenly resurface. And here as well, he hears the original reason he chose to become a lawyer. The night deepens. They walk side by side on their way home. The subway weaves through the city's veins, just like 10 years ago. That bus carrying youthful memories, returning to the youth hostel in Hong Kong. Meanwhile, a woman is desperately handing out flyers on the street. No one stopped for her, not even for half a second. Finally, she moved to the bench by the street and sat down slowly. The pressure of debt was overwhelming for her. Suddenly, the phone in her pocket vibrated. The moment the screen lit up, a message about urgent borrowing for those with bad credit struck like a lightning bolt, cutting through his chaotic vision. It was as if fate had lowered a rope just for him. He almost instinctively pressed that number. Landlord Hong Min called a meeting with several bosses again. He proposed to implement a legal internship program for law students at the company. He would cover all the costs. This way, they could get early access to potential lawyers and lay the groundwork for the long-term development of each company. This is a win-win situation that is almost guaranteed to succeed. Unexpectedly, one of them mocked him, feeling he crossed the line. Fortunately, the other bosses responded generously. 4 first-year law students, nervously squeezed together, Hong Ling greeted them with a smile. One of them immediately stood up, enthusiastically calling him Lawyer Jin. He waved his hand to indicate he was not a lawyer, just a consultant. The students, who had just been wearing polite smiles, suddenly turned arrogant, but Hong Ling did not argue with them. She enthusiastically led them to meet other lawyers. The group was lively and bustling. The atmosphere here is heating up, but Cheng Yuan's client is stuck in a dilemma. Their family is in financial distress, so they can only choose a public defender. These types of public interest cases are unpaid, yet Cheng Yuan does not treat it lightly at all. Only after careful questioning did he learn the other party was accused of assisting fraud. He cried and defended himself, saying he just wanted to get a loan. They said he rarely used his account. His credit was low, so they had to help him create transaction records first. They randomly transferred multiple sums of money from phone scams into his account, letting him withdraw it. After he returned the money, the loan issue was dropped. Fortunately, Cheng Yuan found the call recording on his phone. From back then, this became the key to whether the case would turn around. The 5 of them gathered after dinner, planning to host a welcome party for the new lawyer tomorrow. Sheng Ji strolled past the break area, with a hint of pride, pointing to the case on his desk that he is responsible for. As expected, a few newcomers came to seek his attention. He took the opportunity to have everyone write discussion reports to quickly familiarize themselves with the case. Just as it was getting lively, coincidentally, the boss, who came down in the same elevator as Hong Min, passed by. The boss looked at Sheng Ji, who was warmly interacting with others. Lai Feng subtly frowned. A gentle sigh blended into the laughter, unnoticeably landing softly. Cheng Yuan, while reviewing the evidence submitted by the other party in court, he caught sight of the paper copy of the client's phone recording. His brow unconsciously furrowed. He found Wen Ting still working overtime. His tone was full of confusion. Normally, the defense should be easy to carry out, but even with evidence that could prove his innocence, the woman was still prosecuted. This anomaly weighed heavily on his heart. He constantly feared that his client would be wrongfully convicted. The next day, Wen Ting went straight to the construction site where her client was. Unable to reach him, he could only come alone to figure out the situation. He put on a safety helmet and followed the crowd inside. Listening to the discussions around him, he compared everything one by one on his computer. He braced himself and stepped onto the construction elevator. The elevator started moving. He stood seemingly calm, but his eyes were tightly shut. Even their eyelashes are slightly trembling. At the class reunion, the 3 of them noticed Zhao Heng's arrival. Their expressions changed in unison. They awkwardly greeted him. It turns out all 3 had cases handled by Zhu Heng. Zhao Heng said he needed to go to the restroom. Sure enough, someone quickly followed him. The man having an affair took advantage of the moment he was washing his hands and pretended to be straightforward, saying he planned to live well with his wife. At the end, he even insincerely expressed his thanks. His guilty look was obvious and impossible to hide. Zhao Heng responded calmly, saying he had been so busy lately that he barely remembered these things. The other party complains that he is too indifferent, yet, in their eyes, there is a hint of relief. Everyone is chatting casually. The gossiping guy suddenly brings up a topic. He asks the cheating guy if the issue has been resolved. From the corner of his eye, he catches a glimpse of Zhao Heng shaking his head calmly. So he pretends to be clueless and presses on with the question. Unexpectedly, the gossip guy's sharp eyes asked him if he was involved with a married man. The cheating man blamed Zhao Heng for the situation. But the gossip guy did not get the information from Zhao Heng. Once this was said, it actually proved Zhao Heng's innocence. The cheating man persistently asked about the source, only to find out it had already spread throughout the company. At this moment, the man having an affair vaguely apologized under the prompting of Wenting's husband. He offered a half-hearted apology. At this time, Shizhi and the others had just finished the welcome meeting. The four of them decided to come to Zhao Heng for a discussion. The two groups ran into each other. Zhao Heng's gaze never left Shizhi. The gossiping man not only had a good memory, but also recognized him at a glance. Shizhi is a girl Zhao Heng met when he was at law school. He even said back then that he had met someone he liked. He sent photos, asking everyone what to do. He remembers all the details clearly. Zhao Heng only said she was a colleague, but when the gossip guy suggested getting to know Shizhi, he immediately came back, saying Shizhi hates blind dates. The gossip guy asks, Gigi, is it about liking someone you happen to meet? This question leaves Zhao Heng, a lawyer, with no room to refute. The dinner party ends. Both sides exchange greetings. Gigi apologizes for not attending the dinner last time as promised. Upon hearing that her husband said it was Zhao Heng who hosted that day, he suddenly realized, so there was a reason he was treating everyone. He asked Shizhi if she had noticed Zhao Heng's feelings for her. Halfway through speaking, he was forcefully pushed aside by Zhao Heng. At this moment, the gossiping guy also started introducing himself to Shizhi. Before he finished speaking, he was also pushed aside by Zhao Heng. Everyone gradually left. Wenjing looked at the bag in her husband's hand and asked what it was. It turned out that Wenting had just eaten a few extra pieces during the meal, so he bought such a big bag. What was inside the bag was not fries at all. It was clearly an unmistakable love. The two who chose to take the bus walked side by side. Shizhi also received a legal consultation call from a friend. Zhao Heng quietly suggests it is best not to ask about what happens next. Just forget about it after hearing, otherwise the relationship might become distant, like him just now at the dinner table. During the bus wait, Shizhi suddenly asked him when he likes Hong Kong the most. Zhao Heng's thoughts drifted to Hong Kong. Zhao Heng is a true Hong Kong movie fan. The map is densely marked with all the sweet honey locations. Every filming spot, he plans to visit them all. Just like scenes from the movie, when the two first arrived in Hong Kong, their relationship quietly grew closer. In the photos they took of each other, there is a full atmosphere of innocence and subtle affection. Shizhi had looked at a bracelet for a few extra moments, but she did not buy it, so Zhao Heng quietly went back and purchased it. This bracelet has been worn for 10 years. It holds the unspoken love between the two of them. Gigi deliberately shook her wrist and asked if he had not noticed. Zhao Heng replied, "Of course I remember, I bought it. How could I possibly forget?" The warmth of their tightly clasped hands could warm the entire cold winter. On the other side, Chang Yuan's case officially began the trial. He argued passionately in court, pleading with the judge to consider that the defendant did not intentionally assist in the fraud, and to acquit him. The court's focus returned to that crucial phone recording. Wenting's client finally appeared. Because the payment for the project was delayed, he had been avoiding it all along. This time, I came to supplement a few missing accessories in the lawsuit. However, the assessment found that Wenting had already added everything in. This thoughtfulness made him feel both guilty and grateful. He sincerely expressed his thanks to Wenting once again. That day, Hong Min appeared with a pile of New Year gifts. Everyone in the building received one. Opening the gift box, it was a live giant lobster. The boss was so scared he threw himself into Shengji's arms. Shengji fanned his flushed cheeks. When boss Chang Yuan thanked him while holding the gift, another passing boss also came over, smiling as he fed the lobster, telling Hong Min to say thanks. Hearing the word lobster, he instinctively shook the light bag in his hand. When he looked up, he caught the security guard also thanking Hao Min. Every word was about that lively, jumping creature. It was only at this moment that he realized the entire building's New Year gift was a fierce, clawing lobster, except for the one in his hand, which was as light as a feather with no weight. The five of them reunite once again. Zhao Heng and Shizhi exchange glances. The air is filled with sweetness. Wenting says, if she tells her parents she is pregnant, she won't have to listen to their nagging anymore. Shizhi, curious, asks, do your family members ask why you have not gotten married? He said no one had ever pressured him, but that night when he got home, his mother suddenly asked him when he was getting married. He turned to his father for help. His father asked if he was not planning to get married. The new year at Zhengji's family begins with honoring their father. His mother is busy making a living. Even during the spring festival, she has to go out. She could only lie on the sofa and stare blankly. Wenting finally confessed to her family about her pregnancy. She thought she would be praised, but her parents immediately urged her to have a second child. A barrage of questions left her dizzy. In a large family, Chang Yuan was pestered by his nieces and nephews to buy ice cream. His father did not care about the spring festival. He pushes a pile of documents to him for a mock debate. Zhao Heng, the epitome of an outside elite. But at home, he is just a pancake-making laborer. Goes out to make a call and unexpectedly encounters Ji Jihe, who is leisurely strolling. The two meet downstairs at Hongling Building. Zhao Heng casually invites him to dinner. During the chat, he mentions an invitation from 10 years ago. Only then did they realize that both had gone to Jiangnan Station. Yet, by a twist of fate, they missed each other. When recalling the misunderstandings from back then, they were both filled with regret. Zhao Heng told him to be clear next time. Ji Jihe countered by asking when the next time would be. Zhao Heng turned to look at Ji Jihe. His determined gaze replied, "No sooner had the words fallen than the first snow quickly began to fall. Along with the first snow came Ji Jihe's kiss. The falling snowflakes, like scattered love, gently surrounded the two of them. Hand in hand, they strolled back to the company, only to run into 3 others, also spending the spring festival together. 5 people gathered together. Good friends, delicious food, beautiful scenery. Happiness is revealed in this moment. The first workday after the spring festival. Zhao Heng watches Ji Jihe's back, a smile on his face. He quickly catches up, but at the corner, his figure suddenly disappears. Ji Jihe hurries to take a taxi to the community entrance. Only saw my father being taken away by the police. Sweet moments came to an abrupt end. Zhao Heng proactively dialed the phone, only to receive a hurried "I will contact you later" in response. Ji Jihe never thought he would witness the moment his father was taken away with his own eyes. Everything around seemed to be killing the traitor lightly. He wanted to apply for a family visit. Unexpectedly, he was firmly rejected by his father. As he left that place, memories suddenly pierced his mind. It was the first time he saw his refined father angry on the phone. He even knelt down to plead in order to escape this embarrassment. He almost fled the scene in a panic. Excited yet anxious, he awaited the relevant documents. Only after reading it word by word did I realize that my father was completely unaware of this. The fraudulent activities mentioned in the documents involved an amount as high as 350 million. He recalled that when he returned home that night, his father had reassured him, saying that he would definitely recover the money no matter what. Thinking back on it now, Ji Jihe felt a tightness in his chest, fearing that his father might go astray for money. He was wrong that day. He was at his father's location. As a lawyer, he firmly requested to meet. He wanted to personally represent his father. However, his father was well aware of the complexities. He feared it would implicate him. Insist on refusing. On the other side, boss Cheng Yuan mentions Ji Jihe's predicament to Cheng Yuan. Subtly advises to keep a distance from him. It turns out, Ji Jihe requested a meeting to discuss his father, Shi Chao. Boss Cheng Yuan notices this. Ji Jihe is determined to personally defend his father, but his mother firmly opposes it. Zhao Heng was restless after work, clutching his phone, hesitating whether to contact Ji Jihe. Suddenly, the phone rang. Ji Jihe was right beside him. He proposed a plan, formally entrusting his father's matters to Zhao Heng's company, but the actual affairs would be led by him. Zhao Heng looked at Ji Jihe, who was forcing himself to be strong, ultimately unable to hold back. He pulled her tightly into his arms. "I will help you." 4 promises, steady as a plate. Zhao Heng researched this matter all night. To organize a charity gala, Ji's father just said a few polite words for President Kui. When the investors noticed something was wrong, they actually turned their accusations towards him, demanding compensation. Cheng Yuan ran into Ji Jihe, who was lost in thought at the company, and could not help but comfort him. After learning that Zhao Heng had intervened, he nodded with a complicated expression. As he returned to the office, the client happened to visit. His case has already been concluded. The result was still a requirement to pay 10 million. Cheng Yuan felt deeply apologetic. The client, knowing it was his own fault, still sincerely thanked him. This time, he came to find out if he was unable to pay, what kind of situation will they face. Listen, they are required to work at designated places to pay off their debts. He surprisingly shows a look of relief, even hopes to go to Cheng Yuan early to seek understanding. His predicament, offers to pay on their behalf, but is firmly refused. The situations of the 2 clients before and after, he felt it was absurd and helpless. After work, he walked into the break room, exhausted yet joyful. Zhao Heng had sorted out the details of his father's case. He admitted that, even as a nominal person in charge, he would know a lot about his affairs. He worried that he might take it to heart. She shook his head and said it was fine. This was the first time he opened his heart to Zhao Heng. His parents have long been gone. It was his aunt and uncle who raised him. He chose to become a lawyer because he wanted to be able to handle any storms his family might face. But when the time came, he still felt powerless. Zhao Heng patted his own shoulder, expressing that she can be his support. Zhu Heng meets Shi's father, inquiring about the situation that day. The father recalls feeling out of place at that time, feeling awkward and alone, when suddenly, President Kui waved at him. Since the 2 companies had a collaboration, he politely approached and exchanged a few pleasantries. He is still confused about why he got involved in this matter. He also emphasized that he has only known President Kui for 2 years. They only have a lending relationship. Ji Jihe informed his partners about his father's predicament. Everyone immediately agreed to stand together. Wenting found President Kui. However, the other party claimed that they had collaborated with Ji Jihe's father as early as 2019. Still regretting the initial investment, Shizhee rushes to his father's company. After some searching, he finally finds the key transaction details. Could this be the crucial point of the plan? It is still uncertain. Night falls. Everyone gathers to analyze the case. The seal's patterns fit perfectly. The contract's details seem flawless. The case has reached a stalemate. We can only prepare the evidence for now. Zhao Heng remains as meticulous as ever. He works late into the night alone. The first court hearing. She is nervously sitting in the audience. The court ultimately postponed the proceedings due to objections over a key contract, announcing the delay for the witness examination. Witness questioning. When Zhao Heng went to see Shi's father again, the other person was sitting in the meeting room, sitting on the chair in the room, stubbornly insisting that his daughter should not have to testify. Zhao Heng's puzzled question. Only then did he realize that his father was unwilling to let him see his vulnerable state. This tender words made both of them feel a bittersweet emotion. Walking out of the meeting room, Shizhee had already been waiting outside, eagerly asking about his father's condition. Zhao Heng honestly told the truth, worried that his overly calm professional attitude would hurt him. Shizhee just gently shook his head. I know you are doing all this for me. Father has borne these hardships alone twice. It must be very tough. Those people forced him. The company has been forced to shut down. Zhao Heng caught the word shut down. He asked keenly. Because he heard that the company is still operating. Shizhee lowers her eyelashes, indicating that the company's name was taken from his name. His father has always valued it. Later, it reopened under the same legal entity name. At dinner, she received a call from another client, urging him. The tone was clearly impatient. He had been fully focused on his father's case lately. He had indeed neglected other work. He hurried to the office to work overtime. Shang Ji took over the tasks he was handling, so he could concentrate on his father's matters. The team sits together to discuss. They outline two possibilities. If the father is innocent, then the motives of these so-called victims are very suspicious. Upon hearing the suggestion, they decide to directly contact the victims. The two rush to the agreed location, only to find that the other person is not a boss at all, just an ordinary office worker. They did not know Chairman Choi for long, but they transferred money directly to him and asked for kickbacks. Shizhee inquired about the details. The other party hesitated, refused to give a direct answer. Shizhee looked puzzled, facing doubts. The victim passionately retorts, all they see is money. Rather than punishing the real fraudsters, they want to get back their hard-earned money. This conversation ultimately ends on a sour note. As the two return to the company with late-night snacks, they see their partners looking weary, the figure still busy under the lamp. A warm wave of joy surged in his heart. The decisive trial day has finally arrived. Zhao Heng held the evidence, every word forcefully exposing the fatal flaw in the contract. He raised a tax invoice, but this invoice, issued in 2019, used a new unified code that only came into effect in October 2020. He exposed in court that President Kui used the seal on the IOU to forge the contract, deliberately framing others. What is even more shocking is that President Kui once borrowed 900 million won from Shizhee's father and, unable to repay, actually committed fraud under the pretense of investment. Even after repaying the money, they still used the old loan receipt stamp to forge the contract, just to make Shizhee's father take the blame. Then, Cheng Yuan launched a sharp cross-examination of the previous victims. Their new defense line was shattered. It turned out even the victims' testimonies were coached. The truth about the perjury was finally revealed. Team members fist bump in celebration. Hope shines through their weary. The tension from joy finally eases. They let out a long sigh, as if a heavy burden has been lifted. The elevator doors slowly open. Inside, it is packed with friends. The court finally rules that Shi's father is not guilty. President Kui was sentenced to 7 years in prison. That evening, the family gathered around the dining table. The warmth of surviving the ordeal quietly flows under the lights. The next day, Shizhee hosted a banquet to thank everyone. During the meal, he was busy serving everyone dishes. His thoughtfulness caught Zhao Heng's attention. His quick hand gently lifted, naturally helping Shizhee serve some food. The moment the chopsticks crossed over the plate, everyone at the table saw through the undeniable affection. The two of them, riding this warm vibe, officially announced that Saint Ji surprisingly did not film the food today. The camera closely followed this sweet couple. Everyone at the table smiled. In the end, they did not forget to offer a comfort to Cheng Yuan, who looked complicated nearby. Heard that her husband brought home fruit. They were chatting about maternity leave. Wenting's heart moved. She decided to consult a representative, but the other party was indifferent. Wenting could not help but defend herself. The representative then casually answered a call, leaving me to consider their dismissive attitude. Wenting suddenly realized, even fighting for parental leave was fraught with such difficult obstacles. Waking up in the morning, Wenting gently rubbed her sore, swollen calves. The early symptoms of pregnancy had quietly set in. At the dining table, her eyes followed her husband as he unpacked a package. The items sent from the nursing office hide a gentle expectation for new life. The soft baby clothes make her unconsciously smile. However, this expectation for new life is soon interrupted by reality. When her husband asks about the maternity leave application, Wenting's voice carries a sense of helplessness. The company's reasons sound impeccable. No one can take over the case Wenting is handling. Soon after, Wenting receives a new case. Just then, Shizhe brings her some snacks. They head together to the client's shop. The food restaurant run by Zhang Xianzhu used to be bustling. Now it has very few customers. The owner, with red eyes, recounts her experience. The waitress she hired 2 years ago was diligent and eager to learn. I also want to learn the work in the kitchen. Without thinking much, I led him into the kitchen. I even taught him step by step. He learned the secret recipe for spicy stir-fried rice cakes. But one day, he suddenly quit. He turned around and opened an identical shop on the corner. He bought a bowl and brought it back. The taste was exactly the same. Since that store opened, the regular customers and those who came from afar have chosen them because of their better location, and the revenue in our store has dropped by half. When Wenting and Shizhe visited in person, they were shocked by the scene before them. From the paintings on the walls to the tableware, even the way the waitstaff asked questions, exactly the same as the old shop's recipe. After tasting a spoonful of the sauce, Wenting was even more certain that the flavor was identical. Zhang Xianzhu once tried to patent the sauce, but her application was rejected. This became the opponent's sharpest weapon. The courtroom lights are bright and blinding. Wenting, as the defense lawyer, presents key evidence. The plaintiff set up a separate lock while preparing the sauce. Immediately, only a portion of the kitchen staff was informed. The defendant was once one of them, therefore, they learned the recipe. However, the defendant's lawyer immediately countered. The plaintiff had applied for a patent but was rejected. After such a long time, the application details have already been made public. So, this recipe is no longer a secret that has never been revealed. Since the patent application was not approved, it indicates that the recipe is not novel enough. Anyone who works at the restaurant can easily become familiar with it. It does not meet the criteria for trade secrets. To influence the case, we must find a new breakthrough. Wenting contacted Zhang Xianzhu again. This time, she heard key details from the shop owner. While working, the defendant had specifically inquired about the patent application status. Shortly after learning that the application was made but not approved, he hurriedly resigned and opened a new shop. This was clearly a premeditated act of deliberate theft. Inform him with joy. What was stolen was not just the sauce and condiments. There were also decorations from the shop. Zhang Xianzhu suddenly realized, no wonder the shop owner thought he was going to open a branch. It turns out that the decorator is also a regular at the old shop. For over 20 years, the shop has been patched up. Every time we change the decorations, I ask him for help. I suppose the client's shop was also decorated by him. He glances over with his eyes. The interior arrangement is the result of over 20 years of careful effort. But you can never be sure that the smell and atmosphere over there are exactly the same. The client's voice is tinged with tears. These changes almost made him lose his passion for work. But Wenting found a new direction in his story. He asked Zhang Xianzhu for the contact information of the decoration shop owner. His eyes rekindled with hope. He turned to face the battlefield of the next trial. He pulled up another document. This is the authorization letter from the contractor commissioned by the defendant. Next to it is a photo of the plaintiff's store. The details of the two documents projected are remarkably consistent. The defendant requested that the decoration be done exactly as described by the plaintiff's store. Even the positions of the paintings were precisely marked. He then presented customer reviews of the defendant's store. All diners believe this is a branch store. He turned to the judge, stated firmly, the defendant not only stole the recipes, but also completely copied the store layout and service process, to the point that regular customers mistook it for a branch. This constitutes unfair competition. The defendant is liable for damages. Their store operation and use of the recipes should also be prohibited. The overwhelming evidence left the defendant's lawyer speechless. Zhang Xianzhu's case finally ended in victory. Tears shimmered in her eyes. She thanked Wenting. After returning home, her husband bought Wenting a new pair of shoes. It turned out that when Wenting left in the morning, she had already noticed the slight discomfort in her shoes. This simple gesture brought tears to her eyes. She also made a decision. She loves her job so much that she plans to continue working during pregnancy and maternity leave, and her husband fully understands her. Meanwhile, an insurance broker is being overwhelmed by endless calls with the sole goal of closing insurance policies. If the performance does not meet the target that day, the entire team will be forced to stay and work overtime. If the tasks really can't be completed, he can only sign the order with his own name. In the empty office, only his lonely figure remains. The next morning, he stared blankly at the shoes by the entrance. His wife handed him a warm thermos cup. She called his name several times before pulling him back from his daze. His wife worriedly noticed the fatigue in his eyes growing deeper day by day. Stepping into the company again, each step felt as heavy as if filled with lead. The surrounding whispers surged like a tide, wrapping around him, making it hard to breathe. He had long become numb to handing over his phone. Fragmented accusations kept coming. Those words pressed down on him like stones. The invisible pressure finally broke him. His last bit of resistance, he chose to leave. His wife, desperate, sought help from Zhao Heng. At that very moment, the representative walked over quickly to make Zhao Heng end the conversation as soon as possible. Don't give the other party a choice, just deal with it casually yourself. Immediately after, the representative from the other company approached Zhao Heng, claiming their management was not oppressive. They also brought a statement of facts, pretending to sigh and saying he was indeed pitiful. Demanding compensation is too much. Zhao Heng was full of doubts. He found the representative to ask why. He asked if they planned to take the other party's case. The representative smiled and admitted frankly the defense fee offered by the other side was much higher. Zhao Heng argued firmly, saying, after all, the person seeking help came first. There is no reason to refuse just because of more money. This shows impatience. If you do not want to take it, leave it to Wenting. Considering Wenting's health condition, Zhao Heng can only reluctantly agree. In the evening, Shizhi complains to Zhao Heng, saying that their representative was too indifferent on another case. Zhao Heng stands from the perspective of the representative. I do not think handling it that way is inappropriate. But Kizhi believes that at times like this, Zhao Heng should unconditionally stand by her side. Zhao Heng said he also thought representing her was only natural before. Kizhi explained that his actions were out of moral duty and that he should fulfill the moral duty of a boyfriend. It turned out, Kizhi had taken on a consultation from a pair of sisters. When they applied for family relations, they discovered that their estranged father had already passed away. Upon finding their father's residence, they learned he had remarried and had a son. The stepmother had also died last year. The father had been dead for less than a month. What they were most concerned about in this complicated situation was whether they were also considered heirs. When they heard about Shizhi, the sisters and that child all felt their hearts suddenly grew cold. The debts left by their father far exceeded the inheritance. They immediately decided to renounce the inheritance. Little did they know, their hearts were still thinking about that unknown child. During the discussion, he proposed to apply for renunciation of inheritance on behalf of the child as well. He ultimately decided to visit the child in person. After explaining his intentions, the child's relatives did not understand. They felt that if the child renounced the inheritance, the debt would fall on them. But Yoshiyuki refused to help them with the renunciation. Seeing this, Yoshiyuki agreed to help handle it together. He found the representative to explain the situation. He thought it was just a matter of adding a name, but the representative had his own considerations. He said those people were not clients, and he was not running a charity. He could not help with these things for free. After Shizhi finished complaining to the representative, he noticed Zhao Heng also wore a worried expression. Zhao Heng spoke out about being forced to take on the high-pressure company case. Shizhi imitated the sarcastic tone he had taught him before, finally bringing a smile back to Zhao Heng's face. The next day, Zhao Heng carefully reviewed his colleagues' statements and planned to investigate the company. As soon as he entered, he saw the glaring performance completion chart. The store manager eagerly approached. Zhao Heng requested to meet the employees who signed the statement. He wanted to understand the truth. The store manager excused himself, saying everyone was busy. Maybe only one or two people were available. He was questioned. The man's eyes darted nervously. He insisted the statement was entirely true. He casually said the other person looked exhausted at work. It seemed like their depression had relapsed. The store manager's eyes lit up as if he had found a treasure. He seized on the keyword depression. Zhao Heng, representing the high-pressure company, said in court, the plaintiff has depression, requesting the dismissal of the claim. Although the man's wife was arguing nearby, he says his husband has never experienced these symptoms since they got married, but he can't provide any evidence. On the other side, Kiyoshi proposes a plan for the sisters to arrange their inheritance, using the inherited estate to pay off their debts. Any shortfall won't need to be made up by themselves. It does not make much difference to them, just that the process will be a bit more complicated. Although the two sisters have no emotional connection with the child, they could not bear to see the child face such a situation. After weighing the options, they finally agreed. Holding the limited inheritance application, Shizhi returned to the child's relatives. Seeing this guarantee, the relatives finally agreed to let the child have it, abandon the inheritance. At this moment, the little boy still did not understand what the adults were doing, but Shizhi's actions were enough to brighten his future. Zhao Heng's phone rang on his way home from work. It was someone who had asked about things at the company before. The caller went straight to selling insurance. Zhao Heng glanced at his watch. He guessed he still could not leave work. In the end, he agreed to buy an insurance policy. This allowed the other party to get off work. The painful days are still here. It is just that the people have changed. The next day, Zhao Heng received the judgment of the high-pressure company's lawsuit victory. He handed the judgment to the representative. Normally, such a result would not need special explanation. This time, however, he insisted on giving feedback. Kishi also informed the representative of the outcome of his case. Although the representative said little, it was clear he was still dissatisfied with Kishi's approach. Kishi went to Zhao Heng's office and exchanged the results of their respective cases. Kishi saw that although Zhu Heng had won the case, he showed no joy. He could only offer him some comfort. New cases keep coming in, one after another. Zhizhi received a case that shocked him. An elderly person caring for his sick brother in bed for 10 years. But in the end, he chose to kill his brother. Wenting believes that if he had no other choice, he definitely would not have done that. Shizhe also suspects there is more to the story, so he went to find the elderly man, wanting to understand the details of the case. But the old man refuses to say anything, and clearly states he does not need a lawyer. He only admits to killing someone, willing to accept punishment. Shizhe does not understand why he did it, so he personally goes to investigate at the old man's home. At the old man's house, he found a diary. From the content of the diary, the old man actually loved his brother very much. But the old man also began to think about whether his brother wanted to live. As no one was willing to listen to him, he could only bear it alone. Later, Ji learned that the old man had been living off insurance claims, including the treatment costs for the old man's younger brother. It turned out the old man was already in the late stages of cancer. The premiums he paid for cancer insurance, he did not use for his own treatment, but used them all to treat his younger brother. At this moment, Shizhe finally understood why the old man did this. He had been taking care of his younger brother all alone. I do not want to cause trouble for my children, but now he does not have much time left, so he ultimately decided to let his brother leave first. Shizhe found the old man and told him the truth. The old man finally expressed his true feelings. He understood that if you break the law, you must accept the punishment, and since his life was nearing its end, there was no need to ask for a reduced sentence. But Kiyoshi believed he deserved a fair judgment. So in court, Kiyoshi defended the elderly man and told the truth. When the children stopped to listen and heard that their mother had cancer, they were all deeply shocked. At this moment, the final verdict no longer mattered. Believing they can be understood is the best comfort for the elderly. At St. Jean's place, they are meeting with a guy who was scammed by an agent. The guy said he signed a contract with the agent, but the landlord claims he does not know any agent and wants him to leave. Although the guy has never met the landlord, the agent showed him a power of attorney when signing the contract, but he was not given a copy of it. Sang-ji suspected that the agency had tricked him into signing the contract and kept the deposit for themselves. So he went to the agency to ask if he had signed a power of attorney, but the agency denied it. However, all the tenants in the entire building had previously signed contracts with this agency. So Sang-ji went to visit the residents there, take a photo of the contract they signed with the agent, then find the agent, question why other users have a letter of authorization. At this point, the agent immediately changed their tune. They claimed that there might not have been a letter of authorization when signing with the guy. It turns out that after the landlord stopped cooperating with the agent, the previously unused letter of authorization was not retrieved. So the agent took this opportunity to rent the house to the guy. So both the agent and the landlord are responsible. In the end, with Sang-ji's defense, the young man won the case. Afterwards, the two had a meal together. The young man said he also wanted to go to university and become a lawyer like Sang-ji. Sang-jin asked if he was still in school. The young man hesitated to speak, so he had to earn money to pay for his own schooling. The younger kids in the orphanage were also relying on him to support them. Sang-ji, who also grew up poor, encouraged him not to give up on his dreams. At the same time, he made a firm decision. That was to quit his job and pursue a PhD to become a professor. So in the evening, he found a representative to have dinner with. Express your thoughts at the same time, instantly feeling disappointed after hearing it. It turns out the female representative had already fallen for Saint Ki, so she took advantage of her drunkenness to confess her feelings and supported his decision. That night, the two drank a lot and ended up sleeping together. Soon after, they confirmed their romantic relationship. Meanwhile, the others in the group have also found their own paths. Zhao Heng chose to resign and leave the law firm he worked at for 10 years, planning to start his own practice. Shizhe, after facing various cases during this time, plans to become a full-time public defender. At parting, the boss encouraged him to study hard. Cheng Yuan also chose to resign to take the prosecutor exam. Because of his extensive case-handling experience, he passed successfully. He even encountered the former representative in court. Wenting continued working after giving birth, although the boss was indifferent, but still cared about her a lot. And the original poster, Hong Ming, also decided to return to school to continue his studies. His substitute teacher happened to be Sheng Ji. At the end of the story, Zhao Heng and Ji Yi walked into a familiar restaurant together. The group of 5 gathered again. The difference was, they all had their own goals now,